It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
We are in what some people say is the most important election. Of course, everybody says that every cycle is the most important election of your lifetime, but you can kind of feel the energy. People are really getting excited. You got to go out and vote. You got to go out and really just, metaphorically speaking, combat the radical left with your vote. I think the choices are very clear. The contrast is maybe the most stark that it's ever been. Joining us now to talk more about that, we have the co-chair of the Media Equality Project. Megan Barth is with us, the website MediaEqualizer.com. Megan, good morning. Welcome back. We got Megan Barth back with us. Megan, how are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. So tell us a little bit about what do you think this election, in terms of how stark the contrast is? I mean, the American people clearly have two choices here.
Well, the American people do clearly have two choices, and what we have to keep in mind is that even though Democrats are running as moderates, they're still radicals. What they're doing is basically lying to their constituents in order to win elections. This has been uncovered time and time again, whether it's Andrew Gillum in Florida, whether it's Claire McCaskill in Missouri, Beto O'Rourke, who's Robert Francis O'Rourke. He can't even not lie about his own name. And so we have really the difference and the choice is between capitalism and socialism. And I've often said this for many years. I've said it. It's not necessarily between Republicans and Democrats. It's between capitalism and socialism. And these radical ideas that the Democrats are putting forward, protecting illegal aliens over American citizens, abolishing ICE, opening the border, raising taxes. I don't remember an election in my lifetime that actually Democrats or Republicans were campaigning on raising taxes. This is a new one. But the Democrats are going to need your tax money in order to provide health care, education, incarceration, and basically just overall care for illegal aliens, because that's exactly who the Democrats are standing with.
You know, the Caravan is being mocked on the left is almost something that's not even real. It's a phantom. And, of course, a couple of weeks ago, the media was covering it because I think they thought it was going to be a bad thing for Republicans, the optics, the publicity stunt. Now, of course, they try to tell people it's not really even a threat.
Well, so far I call it the Cloward Piven Caravan, or the migrant mob. So far, this caravan has amassed, from a last report, to about 14,000 people. It's growing like a tumbleweed as it heads towards the southern border. I'm sure it's going to perhaps maybe surpass 15,000, or maybe they'll pick up another migrant mob on their way to violate our laws and breach our southern border. We do know from Jorge Ramos, when he was talking about it, that, well, not all of these migrants are bad people. Okay, well, that means by default that some are. And according to our Department of Homeland Security and others that we have down there, and according to the Mexican government, the ambassador from Mexico told us that these people were very violent, and we witnessed them throwing rocks and projectiles at the Mexico police and authorities and military. So, yes, they're demonstrating violence, and they're also demonstrating that they really have no desire to assimilate to our country or love our country, because they're carrying the Honduran flag. Why would you carry the flag of your oppressors and wave the flag of your oppressors? That's something I just can't wrap my head around. And in the meantime, they painted a swastika on the American flag and was destroying the American flag. So when I see a group of 14,000, mostly young men, 70% men, waving their country's flag and approaching our border, it's called an invasion.
Yes. Yeah, it really is. What do you think? We're talking with Megan Barth, MediaEqualizer.com. What do you think about President Trump saying, listen, we're going to set up tents, the military's going to help us do that? I saw photos of them putting up the razor wire. But listen, we're not going to let them say that one little phrase of legalese and then they get released and get a later court date. They'll get their court date, but they're not going anywhere. They're going to stay confined until their court date. Do you think that's a good move?
Well, I think it's the only move he has until he executes an EO, which changes the language in the quote-unquote asylum abuse, whereby, as he explained, many of these migrants aren't seeking asylum, and I would believe a majority are not, because if they really were seeking asylum, number one, you wouldn't be carrying and waving the flag of your oppressor, which is Honduran flag. And number two, if you were really seeking asylum, you would accept Mexico's offer of asylum, or at least the application of it. If you are seeking asylum as a quote-unquote refugee, the very first country you set foot in outside of yours, you can request asylum. And then also the second thing that Donald Trump needs to do, outside of just doing an EO to change the asylum language, he needs to create an EO centered around birthright citizenship. Because if we have a 70% of these young men going to come across our borders, there's high chances that they will become fathers as soon as they can, thereby giving themselves an anchor.
That's a really good point, and that's why they can't be allowed in. I mean, it's just it's amazing to me how things have worked out to bring us to this point. And I think the left certainly knows what the stakes are, and I think things are going to be. I think it's going to be 2016 all over again. I really think the media. The polling, none of it changed. There was no correction. There was no admission that we, were wrong in what we were doing. The agenda is still there. I see this article here. We have now President Obama going out. We mentioned this last hour, mocking Ebola, mocking the press for caring about Hillary Clinton's emails when they didn't, mocking Trump for his cell phone use. Says a bunch of poor refugees we were just talking about not a threat. And says that Trump moving the troops to the border is a political stunt. What's your response, Megan?
Barack Obama, I've been watching many of his speeches he's been giving, and I've been watching with the sound off. He looks like he's panicking. And I think the Democrats are panicking. When you have to go low, resorting to personal attacks, you know that the left has lost the intellectual argument. They cannot debate or talk about policy and how, and he's, of course, still taking credit for the great economy, which is a joke.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
But again, Barack Obama never met a lie he didn't like. And that was demonstrated over 40 times when he told us everyone that they could keep their doctor and keep their health care plan, knowing that was a lie. So he deceived the American public for 8 years. I mean, we had the malaise of Barack Obama for 8 years. But again, the Democrats will lie and try to paint a good picture. And I forgot to add the last EO that Donald Trump should sign is something related to ports of entry. We used to have a port of entry. It was called Ellis Island. The immigrants came through one location. We knew their name. We knew their address. We knew their phone number. We knew everything about these illegal immigrants coming through our borders. We even had an infirmary where if the immigrant was demonstrating signs of sickness, we would infirm them. And it wasn't guaranteed that all of these immigrants were going to just come through this port of entry and then automatically become American citizens. We applied the laws and we applied, our health concerns to these immigrants. The problem is now there are no ports of entry, no legal ports of entry that these people are using, so they can come through whatever wall or opening in the wall that they can find, bringing with them third world diseases. And I write about this quite extensively. And so, with third world migration comes third world diseases. And most of these people, if not all of these people, are not vaccinated. And so when they disappear into the shadows, they're also disappearing into the shadows with potential third world diseases.
And let's not forget here that we have this video that President Trump tweeted, and of course CNN says he's racist, which is ridiculous, but of the cop killer, the illegal immigrant that killed 2 cops and then said, my only regret is I didn't get to kill more, and then some, and bringing that simple fact up is just too much truth for them, so the only thing they can say is, well, Trump is racist.
Right. They want you to believe that all these illegal immigrants that are penetrating our southern border are going to be, I guess, the next nuclear physicist or the next guy that splits an atom. Not happening. And so we see that. I thought it was a fantastic ad, a very effective ad. And then, of course, the left, with their propaganda arm being the media, default accusations, accused by default the president of racism. Oh, imagine that. That's something new, not. Racism is their default position. When everything is racist, nothing is racist. And, oh, by the way, illegal alien is not a race.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Hey, Megan, we're almost out of time for this segment. I just, what are your feelings right now? I mean, I know you're in Nevada. That is a battleground state there in the Senate. But what are your feelings? I mean, do you think it's going to go the way the media says, like an 83% chance the Democrats take the House? Do you buy any of that?
I'm concerned about California because really that's where the House might get their power. We've got Duncan Hunter, who is under investigation. I've talked to somebody in California that was actually canvassing for Duncan Hunter. He says it looks pretty good. But that's where they might get a blue wave is from the liberal cesspool called California. But that's only in the House. The Senate is where most of the things are done. But I don't think it's an 85% chance. I do think that if the red wave applies itself, which I'm seeing in the Senate, the red wave should then thereby translate to the House. My only concern is California, and I just noticed that the Nevada gubernatorial race is only 1 point in favor of Republicans. So that just shows you how extraordinarily important it is for every single registered person who doesn't believe in open borders, who does not believe that illegal immigrants should just cross our borders at any time they want, and any person who doesn't want higher taxes needs to get out there and vote red.
Megan Barth, co-chair of the Media Equality Project. It's always great to have you on. Thanks for spending time with us this morning.
Anytime, Bill. Thank you so much.
All righty.